Assalamu alaikum students. How are you? This is Miss Rahila. Today I will teach you chapter Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai. As you know, this is your new book and this is a very colorful book. Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai. Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai, who is lovingly called Lal Latif by his devotees, was a noted Sindhi Sufi scholar, mystic, saint and poet. He is considered as the great Muslim poet of the Sindhi language. Information about the life of Bhitai has mostly been collected from oral tradition. A renowned Pakistani scholar, educationalist, and writer of plays, dramas, and stories, Mirza Khalid Beg is said to have collected details about the early life of Shah Bhitai from some of the old people living at that time. These people had heard these facts from their fathers and grandfathers, some of whom had seen Shah Latif in person and had even spoken to him. As a Sufi poet, Latif Urs is held at his shrine every year on 14 Safar, the second month of the Muslim calendar. Thousands of people gathered and listened to the saint's song sung on the tamburo. Many learned men read papers that tell about Latif's life and his poetry. Some of the key aspects shared by different scholars about Lal Latif are given below. The first aspect is about background and family. Shah Latif's ancestral roots lay in Afghanistan. Some historians say that the Shah fathers, Sayyid Habib Shah, migrated from Materu, his ancestral home in Afghanistan, to Bhainpur in Sindh in order to gain spiritual contact with Bilawal, a local pious man. Others say that his ancestors migrated to Sindh from Herat. Sindh was then a center of Muslim culture, and Shah Latif's ancestors liked it so much that they decided to make it their home. The second aspect was the name Bhitai. In 1742, Shah Latif left his home and went to live on a mound at some distance from his village. A mound of sand is called Bhit in Sindhi due to the fact that he lived on his mound for the rest of his life. Shah Latif came to be known as the Sand of Bhit. To this day, He is famous all over the country as Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai or Shah Latif of the Mount. The third aspect is about early life and education. Shah Bhitai was born in 1689 AD, 14 Safar 1102 AH, in a small village called Hala Haveli, a few miles to the east of the present town Bhitai. Latif was raised during the golden age of Sindhi culture. His first teacher was Akhund Nur Muhammad Bhitai, but mainly he was self-educated. Although he received little formal education, the Risalo provides proof that he knew Arabic and Persian quite well. Various references in Shah Risalo indicate that he had in-depth knowledge of the Holy Quran and the Hadith. His poetic collection include the Masnavi of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi and Shah Karim poems. Now, the fourth aspect is about his youth. Young Latif had a very sensitive mind. While he was only a boy, he started composing poetry. His admiration for the beauty of nature filled his heart with the love of God. In 1713, the Sufi poet married with Bibi Saida Begum. His wife died at an early age. Before she could have any children. However, Shah never married again. His heart turned more and more towards religion and devotion, and he felt restless. He found it difficult to live a normal domestic life. Now, fifth aspect about spiritual growth. Latif's love of God grew more and more, to the extent that he found pleasure only in devotion. As a result, he spent most of his time in prayers and deep thinking. His spiritual power grew stronger with prayers and devotion, so much so that people began to be attracted towards him. Anyone who came to him was strongly impressed by his gentle ways, and his followers increased day by day. Close to the mount on which Lal Latif came to live is a natural lake. His poetic nature loved the calm atmosphere. He would spend much of his time sitting on the bank of this lake. As he sat there, he prayed to God and sometimes composed verses in his praise. Now, the sixth aspect is about death and remembrance. Lal Latif died in 1752 on the mount where he had lived. He was buried on the same mount. It is said that one day he ordered the musician to play music. They played continuously for 3 days. When they stopped playing, they found the poet dead. A famous king of Sindh, Shah was so devoted to him that he built a grand mausoleum over his grave. The lovely white dome of the shrine represents the purity and dignity of Latif. His devotees collected his poetry and his collection is called the Risalo of Shah Abdul Latif. Every year, the devotees celebrates his Urs, which commences on 14th Safar and lasts for 3 days. Now the seventh aspect, Shah Latif's poetry. Shah Abdul Latif was a sensitive, gentle and kind soul. He was a Sufi in the true sense of the word. The word Latif literally means fine, delicate, tender, elegant and light. This meaning is truly reflected in both his poetry and his personality. Moreover, he was a poet of the people, so he wrote in the language of the common man. In his poems, he writes mainly about Sindh and its neighboring regions. However, he also mentions distant cities such as Istanbul and Samarkand and their voyages as far as Malabar coast, Sri Lanka and the island of Java. Here is the translation of one such verse. Clouds returns, and once again it rains, lightning flashes from all sides, and with it some go to Istanbul, others turn to the west. Some shine bright over China, and others take care of Samarkand. Some wanders to Rome, to Kabul and Kandahar. Some lie on Delhi, Deccan and thundering over. My beloved Allah, may you always make sin a land of abundance. My beloved Allah, may you make prosperous the whole universe. Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai, Sursarang Shah Salo. His collected poems have been compiled in Shah Salo, which has been translated into English, Urdu, and other languages. His spiritual and mystic poetry carries a message of love, which makes it universal and acceptable to the entire human race. Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai is and always will be remembered for his great poetry with love and reverence. This is the end of chapter. I hope that you have got very interesting information about Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai. There are 3 exercises in the chapter. Exercise number 1. How many aspects of Shah Latif have been covered in the text? List all these aspects in your notebook as shown below. The first aspect is about his background and family. You have to tell about the other aspect of the chapter. Now, exercise number 2. The words given in bold below have been taken from the text. Look up these words in the text and underline them. Next, do the following exercise. Underline the correct answer from the choices provided. The first one has been done as an example. The first one I am reading. Those who have an abundance of wealth have little wealth, a lot of wealth, some wealth. The meaning of the abundance is a lot of wealth. You have to do the remaining questions like this. In exercise 3, work in pairs and complete the sentences below with the word written in bold in exercise 2. You can use one word only once. Write the complete sentences in your notebook. Now I have done this exercise for you. Now this chapter is completed. Thank you. If you have any confusion, you can ask me in groups. Thank you.